While Luke Skywalker's desire to set up a new Jedi Order is a long-term goal in both the background and main plots of several stories set after the Battle of Endor, his academy actually wasn't the only option for parents looking to send their kids to Jedi schools at this time. The Empire actually had a few of its own attempts to set up its own Dark Jedi Orders, and in some cases the prospective students didn't even need to start out as Force-sensitive. Under the rule of Palpatine and Vader, you're probably familiar with the Inquisitors or Inquisitorius, which in both the legends and canon continuities tended to be made up of former Jedi turned to the dark side in order to hunt for any other survivors of Order 66. As time went on closer to the Battle of Endor, younger Force-sensitives were also trained from scratch as servants of the ruling Sith, like Mara Jade as Emperor's Hand, or Galen Marek aka Starkiller, who served as a secret apprentice for Darth Vader. Some of these members transitioned into groups like the Pentastar Alignment's Inquestors of Justice, a branch of their government serving a similar purpose to the Inquisitors within one of the most powerful Imperial splinter groups after Endor. But it's also after Endor, in the vacuum of power left by the end of the Rule of Two, or as Palpatine preferred to think, the Rule of One, that wider Dark Jedi training programs really began in earnest. In the two most notable cases, these rival Dark Jedi Orders were set up for Imperial warlord groups not by former servants of Palpatine himself, but by technically failed students of Luke Skywalker himself. First, there was Desann, a member of the Chistori species, who plays the role of the primary antagonist in the game Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast. The timeline gets a little compressed with all of this, as Jedi Outcast treats Luke's academy as being pretty established, with students pretty deep into their training by 12 years after Yavin, while the Jedi Academy trilogy of novels, which is where Luke establishes the academy, only takes place about a year earlier. Desann's life among the Chistori had been difficult, with his latent Force abilities being viewed with suspicion, but he finally found acceptance when brought to the new Jedi Academy, where Luke was bringing together Force-sensitives from around the galaxy, so he finally fit in somewhere. Desann unfortunately quickly resorted to bullying his new so-called comrades, ultimately killing one of them, Havid Storm, when Storm stood up to him and called him too weak to be a Jedi due to his abuse of other students. He then fled the Academy, falling in with Admiral Gallic Fire and Lord Hethrier of the Empire Reborn, a radical splinter group of hardline Imperials. Desann was put in charge of the Empire Youth specifically, which included a group of hand-selected Force-sensitives collected by Hethrier, taking one, Tavion Axmis, as his direct apprentice, while also spearheading the training of the rest. Despite his promotion of Desann working with an extra-dimensional being named Waru, who was used in so-called purification rituals on potential subordinates, and not exactly being human himself, Hethrier and the Empire Reborn adhered strictly to the New Order's human supremacist dogma. Thanks to the use of crystals from Artus Prime, imbued with the power from the Valley of the Jedi on Rusan, which was the site of an ancient battle between the Sith and the Jedi, Desann and Hethrier were able to give other members of the Empire Youth Force powers. These youth, which had only minor or no Force sensitivity until now, had been primarily chosen for their own adherence to the racial dogma of Hethrier. These empowered individuals were called the Reborn, with hopes to make an army large enough to challenge not just Luke's order, but the New Republic as a whole. During an attempt to invade Luke Skywalker's academy on Yavin, something that almost every Imperial of this era tried to do, Fire's flagship, the Doomgiver, was destroyed by Rogue Squadron, while Desann was killed during a duel in the temples themselves by a prodigal and prodigious Jedi Knight named Kyle Katarn, though he preferred to be known as a guy with a lightsaber, a few questions, and a subscription to Corey's datapad for more lore videos. This loss at Yavin effectively destroyed Hethrier's Reborn program, although he still did maintain control of the Empire Youth. Over the next 2 years, the Reborn who did remain from this campaign fell under the leadership of Tavion Axmis and her own apprentice, a Twi'lek named Olora, once again working with the Empire, whether the Reborn or others, to grow a new army of Jedi. Luke was mostly stuck having to find people with pre-existing, stronger connections to the Force like some kind of sucker, but Tavion had yet another new method to make her own homegrown Force sensitives. This time, she was using the scepter of an ancient Sith Lord, Marka Ragnos, to harvest Force powers from nexuses of Force power throughout the galaxy, which she could then transfer to her new set of followers. These new followers were the Disciples of Ragnos, members of a Sith cult dedicated to the resurrection of Ragnos himself. With these methods allowing them to expand their own numbers, the Reborn and Disciples of Ragnos were probably more numerous, albeit less trained and disciplined, than Luke's own order. Tavion's apprentice Alora was killed on Taspier by one of Kyle Katarn's apprentices, Jaden Kor, who she was trying to lure to the dark side, while Tavion herself was also killed by Jaden on Korriban, while she was trying to use the power stored in the scepter to resurrect Ragnos. The Empire's dreams of running their own Jedi Academy may have died temporarily at this point in 14 ABY, but it wouldn't be forever. Another of Luke's students, named Brachus, had actually been planted at his academy, having been selected on his home planet of Mist early in life for training under the Emperor. Luke knew he was a plant the entire time, sent to learn Luke's secrets by the Empire in a very Slugworth and Willy Wonka-like situation. But Luke hoped to potentially redeem the still fairly young Dark Jedi, so technically what I said about him being a failed student of Luke rather than a follower of Palpatine was true from a certain point of view. I've gone into Brachus' story a bit more directly in a prior video, but after leaving the Academy, teaming up with another of Luke's fallen students, Dolph of Almania, and failing to take down the New Republic that way, Brachus retreated to the Deep Core Imperial holdings, where he allied with the remaining warlords who were disgruntled by Gilad Pellion's 19 ABY peace treaty with the New Republic, effectively ending the Galactic Civil War. These warlords who rejected Pellion's leadership pooled their resources to create the Shadow Academy, a Dark Jedi Academy run under the auspices of the Second Imperium, a splinter group claiming to be led by another reborn emperor, which was, in reality, 4 royal guards playing doctored recordings of Palpatine in what was essentially a bad telemarketing scam. Brachus was put in charge of training students at this new academy alongside a Night Sister from the planet Dathomir named Tamith Kai. Night Sisters would provide a significant portion of the student body here, including one student named Lomi Plo, but others were gathered, willing or otherwise, from around the galaxy. This briefly included Jacen and Jaina, the kidnapped children of Han and Leia, who hoped they could use their brief stint training at the academy to redeem their close friend Zek, another youth who had been lured in by the promise of power and prestige from Brachus, that he'd always felt left out of given his upbringing living on the streets compared to his much richer friends. The Academy, along with Brachus and Tamith Kai, were destroyed in the aftermath of yet another failed invasion of Yavin. Brachus failed to defeat Luke in a duel, while Admiral Akbar protected the planet from orbit. Brachus fled Yavin hoping to confront Emperor Palpatine, killing 3 of the 4 royal guards posing as Palpatine before breaking into the Emperor's secret chambers and learning the terrible truth, that he had fallen for a really obvious scam. The 4th and final guard triggered the Academy's self-destruct mechanism meant to keep the Academy in line under its less superpowered leadership, killing Brachus and destroying the station. This signaled the end of the Empire's attempted Jedi training programs. Survivors from the Shadow Academy, like the aforementioned Lomi Plo, would escape to the One Sith growing on Korriban under the leadership of Darth Krayt. Lomi and an apprentice named Welk briefly cooperated with their former classmates Jacen, Jaina, and Zek after being captured by the extragalactic invaders known as the Yuuzhan Vong and held aboard a massive world ship. Several of the students captured during the invasion of Yavin were probably trained properly at Luke's Academy after this point too. But that does it for our exploration of the Empire's Jedi Academies. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments if there's another topic you'd like to see covered on the channel. As always, special thanks to the patrons whose names you're seeing scroll by on screen right now. Your support is what makes the channel possible. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.